Hi everyone and welcome to WP User TV Live. Today I have a very exciting topic. I'll be working on Photoshop and showing you how you can edit and work on your photos to make them look brilliant and also to use them as your section headers. So let me just show you an example of what we'll be doing today. So I'm just going to come over here and just show you my website. Right, so this image here was downloaded from Pexels.com. This website has royalty-free images, so you can just go there, download your image, and use them for your commercial purposes. So this is the example that we'll be recreating today in Photoshop. So as I scroll down here, again, you can see that my sections, I've actually used different Photoshop techniques to achieve this type of layout. And again, I've used something different here. On the bottom here, I've actually used shapes. So as you can see, these are different ways that you can use Photoshop to make your designs really stand out. Now, if you learn all these Photoshop skills, definitely you will be designing websites that are much better than your average web designer out there. So this is why I think Photoshop is very important. And also, I'll be working on a course, Photoshop course, which will be available very soon for you to download and learn these quick Photoshop skills, because sometimes on these tutorials there are shortcuts that I use which may seem like I'm moving too fast. So this course will help you learn all these tips and techniques to help you design awesome looking graphics for your website. Okay, already I can see that there's quite a few of you now who are already tuned in, and this is really awesome. We have Usaid Mohammed saying, "Hi Mac, how you doing? Thank you very much for tuning in." We also have Mackie Study. Thank you very much for tuning in. We also have Marcus from Grenada. Awesome, I like that. Mackie says, "I study from India." Okay, that's brilliant. Now there's a name here, I'm not sure if I can pronounce it. Romanian. It's Lore, I think. Well, it looks like Lore. Hopefully I pronounced that well. Okay, so we also have Chris from San Diego, California. Thank you very much, Chris, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Right, I'm really excited about this course, as I mentioned, about this tutorial. I'm used to making all these courses, so I always talk about courses. But I'm really excited about this tutorial because I will be showing you some Photoshop tips that you can actually use in your designs. So once again, I'm just going to show you briefly what we'll be working on. So for those of you who are just tuning in, this is the image that we're going to recreate in Photoshop. Okay, so let's dive into Photoshop and let's get started. So I'm just going to minimize my desktop here, and then we're going to move into our Photoshop document. Excellent. So okay, brilliant. So I'm just going to zoom in so that you can see exactly what I'm working on. Right, excellent. So this image right here is an image I got from Pexels.com, and in fact you can see it in the description here right at the bottom. So what you want to do first is to duplicate this layer. Okay, the reason why we do that is because if you make a mistake, you can always go back to your image and make those adjustments. So my command here to duplicate is Command J. Okay, so now I've duplicated this image. It's right here on the top. So what I'm going to do here as well to remove any confusion, I'm just going to delete these layers. This is what I had before. Okay, so now that I have this, the first thing you want to do is to come over here and go on your adjustments layer. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to exposure, because this image is a bit too bright. We need to reduce that. So I'm just going to come over here on exposure and start reducing the exposure of our image up to about maybe minus 3.2. Okay, so that's looking good. If you want, you can play around with the gamma correction here, but everything seems to be fine as it is. So these are options that you can play around with depending on what sort of image you're working with. Okay, so now that I have that, That's good. What I'm going to do next now is to duplicate this layer by pressing Command J. If you're on a PC, it's Control J. And then what you want to do is to add a blur effect onto this image. So I'm going to come on the top here where it says filter, click on blur, and then I'm going to select Gaussian blur like that. Right, so right now it's quite extreme, as you can see. We can actually lower this by just bringing it down a bit. So I'm just going to leave it at about maybe 9.5 or even a bit lower. Okay, let's try 8.5. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, here's the fun stuff. We want to make sure that part of this image is in focus. So to do that, we're going to come over here and add a layer mask like that. And then we're going to select a brush. So here's my brush right here. So all I have to do now is to paint with my brush. Now, because we have a layer mask, what the layer mask does is it reveals what's on the image below. So now as I'm painting, you can see that part of our image now is in focus, which is brilliant. Okay. Right. So now that we have that, the next thing I'm going to do here is to add a new layer. So I'm going to click this layer icon. So this layer here, I'm just going to paint with my foreground color. Now, with my foreground color here, all I did is I selected part of the image here where I could sample a color. Okay, so now I can just paint. You can see here, I can just add, you know, a bit of paint like that onto that layer. But of course, this is a bit too much. So you need to lower the opacity. So I'm going to come over here and start lowering the opacity like that. This just adds a bit of a design, cool effect onto this image. Okay, so now that I've added that, I'm going to add a brand new layer like that. And then I'm going to come over here and add some shapes. Now, as I'm designing this, you're free to ask me some questions as we go along. So please do ask me some questions and I will do my best to respond to those questions. So what I'm going to do right now is to just take a quick look and see if I have any questions. Wow. Now what I've done here is I've got so many tabs open. So it is actually quite confusing now which tab has everything that I need. So just bear with me as I bring up the tabs. Okay, so I think it's this one. Yes. Okay, I found the tab. Right, so over here, we also have, I can see quite a lot of you are tuning in. We have Mike Murphy from Wirral, UK. We also have Jonathan saying nice. Agante from Berlin. Awesome. Thank you very much for tuning in. We also have JRGWXRZ. Wow. How do I pronounce that? But anyway, the most important thing is thank you very much for tuning in, and you're tuning in from Paris, which is fantastic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue because right now I can see that we don't have any questions. Okay, cool. Right, so back over here to my document. So you'll see how that image then connects and how we added onto Divi and really make it look nice. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Photoshop and we are going to continue with our design. Okay, right, so what I'm going to do here is to add some squares. So I'm going to come over here to my shape tool and then I'm just going to start drawing like that while I'm holding the shift key. Okay. Now, of course, I know you might be saying, well, why is it these shapes are way too bright? Well, we will address that. Okay, so I'm just going to continue here, drawing my shapes. Something happened. I hope my computer hasn't frozen, because that'll be really, really annoying. Right, looks like my computer is frozen. I can't do anything. Oh my days. Ah, this is so annoying. So Photoshop has crashed. Oh, hang on. Yes, we're back in the game. All right, so I'm gonna start adding all my shapes. Okay, like that. And we can just place these on different parts of our image. This is just a design effect that I'm just adding here. Right, maybe one little one here at the top. Right, so now that I have all this set up, I can then go into the opacity and just lower the opacity of these shapes. So you can see here as I'm lowering the opacity, they're getting lighter and lighter. So that's exactly what we need. I'm just going to continue that. Make them really light like that. Go on to the next one. Do the same thing. I'm going to really lower them. Okay, because you don't want these to be a distraction. Okay, so you can see here what I'm doing is I'm actually going to my layers and then lowering the opacity right there. Okay, so we have, okay, now we have the final one. Those two. Nice. Okay, so now I'm really happy with what I have now on my image, on my design. So if you want to really take a look at this, I'm just going to remove all the sides. So that's the image that we're going to be using in our design. And the beauty of this is you can always go back and make your tweaks and save it, you know, the way you want. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save it, and then we're going to go to Divi and I'll show you how we can put that together. All right, so I'm going to save this. And my dimensions here look fine. So I'm going to go ahead now and save as JPEG. Now here on the quality, make sure your quality is set to about 80. Okay, because it's better when it's on 80 because it reduces the file size without actually reducing the quality of the image. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead now and save. We're going to choose a location for this. So we're just going to say BG2 like that. This is in my folder called Interior Design. I'm going to go ahead and save. Excellent. So that's all our work done in Photoshop. So what we're going to do next is we are going to go to our website, Divi, our Divi website, and then I'm going to show you how to add this onto your website. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Right. So I'm just going to go to my website right here. And we're going to create a brand new page. So I'm going to go into my dashboard. And then I'm going to come over here to pages, click on add new. Right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to name my page BG2. Click on use the Divi builder. And then I'm going to go straight to my visual builder. Right, so in my visual builder here, I'm just going to add, I'm going to come over here to this plus button to add our full width section. But now our full width section is going to be a full width header. So I'm going to select that. We can give this a title. So, you know, I'm lazy when it comes to typing. So I'm going to open up a new tab with Lorem 2 so I can just start adding my dummy text. So for my title, I'm just going to copy a bit of text from here. Come over here. I'm going to paste my title there. I'm also going to add my subheading title. Like that. I'm going to paste it. And then our button, let's just call this Learn More, like that. Okay, so now let's go into design. And then straight away, I'm going to come over here to my layout and just make sure that my text orientation here is set to centered. Okay, that's looking great. And then I'm going to make this full screen. Great, so that's looking fine. Now it's time to add our image. So we can come over here to image. Well, in fact, we need to go to background. So we're going to come over here to content. click on background, and then what we need here is the third tab. Click the plus button, and then I am going to upload my image. Upload files, select files. Now it's in my interior design folder, so I think that's on my desktop. Yes, so it's right here, BG2. So now that is uploading onto my media library. It's in my media library now. I'm going to click on upload an image. So that's our image right there. So I'm sure you can see that we have a slight problem on the top here. We still have this section. So let's go ahead and delete that like that. So now we have our beautiful image. So next it's time to customize our text and really make it look nice. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go back into my module settings, click on design, and then I'm going to come over here to my text. In fact, I'm going to go to title text. So first of all, I'm going to change my color. So I'm going to click on text color. Let's go with orange, but you can always adjust these colors if you want. Maybe that actually works better. We're going to increase the size, and let's make it all caps and see how that looks like. Yep, I think that looks nice. Okay, next I'm going to come over here to my description text. So we're going to click on subhead text, change the color. Okay, I think that white works. Okay, maybe that's even better. Okay, and then we're going to increase the size to about maybe 20. And then over here, we need to increase this line height. It's important to always make these little tweaks because they make your design look much better, because the point of your site is to communicate. So as you add your line height to your website, you're actually making it easier for your visitor, that when they come to your website, they can read whatever is in your website. And that's the point of great design. Great design is about communication. So as you're designing your sites, you need to make sure you make these tweaks. So the next thing we're going to do now is to work on the button. So let's go over here to button 1. I'm going to click on use custom styles for button 1, like that. Okay, so now we have options to make changes to our button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by adding our button background color. Now I'm not sure what's going to work here. Let's try white. Perhaps we could use white and a bit of transparency. Yeah, I kind of like that. Okay. So let's see how that works. Okay. So next I'm going to come over here and choose my button text color. So now it needs to be really dark. Yeah, that looks much better. And then what I'm going to do next is to remove my border, because we don't really need a border there. Okay, so now that button looks great. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to adjust the text. Let's make it bold. Okay, all caps, maybe, but the size is a bit too much. So let's lower the size to about 18. Okay, that looks much better. Now, the final thing I'm going to do here is to add some letter spacing. So I pretty much go with 2 because it's not too extreme and it's really nice. I'm going to go ahead now and save. So now we can see that we've just added this background image, and now we have our text right here. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about first working in Photoshop and then going into Divi? Is this a workflow that you've used before, or this is something that you may be considering in the future? But just let me know what you think about what I've done so far in this design. I'm curious to find out how you're seeing this workflow. Okay, so for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this so I don't lose it. Great, so now it's saved. Ricky Rogi saying, hello everyone, what's in the building? What's in the building is today we are working on a workflow where I go into Photoshop and make some design changes to a regular image, and then export that image and use it with Divi. So that's pretty much what we're doing. And also, if you're just joining us, you can also see a live stream. I'll leave this up there so that you can always watch it once the show is over. But that's what's happening. Agante says, I'm not sure if it slows me down. Okay, now here's the thing. Definitely, it will slow you down, but the end result is someone will have an image which is a design which is much better. In fact, let me show you side by side what this would look like if I just uploaded a normal image. So what I'm going to do here, I am going to go back to my website, and then let's add a brand new section which will just have an image, and then I'll show you how difficult this can be. Right, so I'm just going to come over here. Let's add full width header, just like what we have here. I'm going to copy this, copy the text. Right, so what I'm doing here, I'm just recreating what we have on the top, but I am going to add an image which does not have any design on it. Okay, I'm just going to center the text, make it full screen, and then I am going to add a background image because I still have it somewhere. Click on background. I'm over here on my third tab, click the plus button, and we're going to click upload, select files, and my images are in my downloads folder. Right, so let's find it now. Right. Okay, so this is the image. Taking its time to upload. Okay, so upload an image. There we go. So this is the image on the bottom here without any changes to it. And on the top here is what we have when we went into Photoshop and made some changes to it. We added this blur, some shapes, but on the bottom here you can see there's very little control you have to actually make this really look nice. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to copy the styles from this. Copy style. And then I'm going to paste it over here. Right. In fact, what has happened here is it copied the styles off the image itself. But what I can do here is I can just go in quickly and make this text lighter. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm not going to spend too much time here because I know you want to see some really cool things. So I'm just going to make this as close as I can to what I have on the top. Right. Okay, so now that you see we have this. So this is what I normally see when I'm online, where you have a beautiful image, no doubt, but because we have this text here, it's really fighting with the background here in terms of making it easy to read. Now, there's a few things that you can do. You can actually come over here to your content, click on background, and you can add a gradient onto this, or even come over here and add a color. And then come over here to the image and go to your blending modes, click on multiply, and then you can always come back over here and dim it like that. Okay, so that's one way to make sure that your text is easy to read. But as I mentioned, if you compare these two, this one here, well, that's just my opinion. I guess I'm biased because I'm the one who's designing it. But I would think that maybe this looks much better than this one here. Okay, so that's those little Photoshop tweaks that you can do to make this look nice. Now, just responding to a comment earlier on about slowing down the process. Yes, it does, but I don't think that avoiding Photoshop will be a good a good option, because at the end of the day, if you download these images, let's say even if it's from your camera, if you upload your image from your camera and you put it straight on your website, that in itself is actually going to slow down your computer, because these images from your camera are high res and the file sizes are really, really high. So you always want to go into Photoshop anyway to adjust the size of those files. And then after you've adjusted those files, you can always upload them and your images will be optimized. And also you may want to resize your images. So from the camera, you may need to crop it and resize it to make sure that you have the right size. Because what Divi does is when you use your images in Divi, it will pretty much show you a preview where it looks like it's cropped and everything is looking good, but it doesn't take away the fact that that image is really, really large. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a look at some questions and see if we have any questions here. Right, we have Mark Murphy saying, been using Photoshop for years, but newish to Divi, so good to see how easy it is to combine the two. Yes, it is actually quite easy. And this workflow is pretty much what I am working on, because I've noticed that most people that ask me questions about designing professional looking websites, and they ask me to take a look and give them a review of what I think about their websites. Their websites pretty much are sites where they just add images onto them and they don't have really good contrast when it comes to presenting their work. So this is where I decided that Photoshop is actually a very important tool in this case, because you can work on your images and make them look really, really nice and then upload those images after the fact. I've also got a comment here. Agante says, clients don't see the difference on the pictures if the changes are so subtle to the original picture. And I'm also glad to see how easy it is too. Yes, some clients, to be honest, and this is one of those frustrating things when you do web design, if you apply all the graphics, the final really precise touches, right? Of course, it takes a lot of time to work on this, and I've done this before in my web design agency. You put so much effort and you optimize all these images, but at the end of the day, the client does not even see that. In fact, they may even ask for more changes on top of that. So I can see how that can be very frustrating, but it's one of those things where when you do get clients who pay you a lot of money and they appreciate design, they will see these subtle changes which make the websites really stand out. So I would say, yeah, it's worth trying it out and seeing how it goes. Okay, right. I'm just going to take a look and see if I have questions here. Okay. Right, no questions. Right, so let me show you something else that another section that I created here, so you can see how these backgrounds look like. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to save this page just in case I might need to use it later. Right, all pages. Oh, let me actually show you one cool thing you can actually do here with the section dividers, because it does work on this as well. Okay, now my computer is really slow. I guess maybe it's because of my live stream. Okay, I'm just going to add a new section, regular section. Okay, single row. And then I'm just going to add some text here. Right, so again, you know, I'm going to do it the lazy way. Copy some text. And then I'm just going to paste it in here. Create a title. Right, and then finally, I'm just going to center this. Okay, so to make this really look cool, we can actually add a section divider. Right, between these two. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to come over here to my section settings, click on design, dividers, and then we are going to apply our divider to the bottom. So this is where we can play around with different styles. So, okay, this is the first one here. You can use that one. In fact, let me change this around and apply the divider onto the bottom section. So I'm just going to close this. Click on settings, dividers, and then we can start adding our styles just like that. So we have several to choose from. So I think this one works really nice. You can also play around with the height here if you wanted to. And also the color. So there we can add the colors. But in my opinion, this black is fine. In fact, you can play around here with the opacity. In fact, I prefer that. So this is what you can do after you've created your section, just to add a bit of style to this. So these are those subtle changes or subtle designs that you can actually do to make your website look really, really nice. Okay, so if you have any questions, please do add your questions in the comments box. Let's take a look here. Ian says a very good point here. He says you have to edit the pictures as people that continue to use the Internet Explorer and Edge will not see all the div changes. Photoshop fixes that issue. Yes, absolutely. So this is a great point. So thank you very much, Ian, for sharing that with us. Shalom says, it looks like you're on CNN. That's cool. Yes, you know, I've been working so hard to try and make these live streams really look professional. So thank you very much for that. Mark Murphy also says, I use it myself to reduce image resolution for web. Quite often you'll have high-res image for commercial print and low res for web. That's a very good point. And again, this re-emphasizes my point that when you design websites, when you go to royalty-free images, these images that you download are huge. You know, I mean, I'm actually shocked that, you know, some people actually use these images with with those kind of sizes. So Photoshop obviously fixes that problem by making sure that you have those precise sizes, and also you can crop and make sure you have the right size for your images. Okay, now I'm going to before I complete the live stream, I'm going to share a link which is very important. Perhaps maybe you even know this already, but I'll just share this anyways. First of all, I have to find it. It's a service which checks how fast your website is, and it breaks down what is slowing down things on your website. So I think it's web page test, I think. Right, okay, so there's two services here. One of them is Pingdom. So all you have to do is to add your URL over here. So let me see if I can add one of my websites here. Okay. So I'm going to try and choose the nearest here, maybe just New York, maybe. Start test. So what this test does, it gives you a performance grade, and it also takes a look at your website and helps you where you can improve. But this is one of those tools that you can actually use to see if your images are actually slowing down your website. So right now, this is going to be really, really slow because I am broadcasting. Broadcasting live takes a lot of bandwidth, so this won't be accurate at all. But this is something that you may want to test on your website. It does give you great results, and it shows you if your images that you're using on your website are actually optimized. Okay, so you can see here my performance grade. In fact, I was expecting this because as I mentioned, I'm live streaming, so this won't really show great results. So you can see here my performance is D, which is really bad, of course. The load time is 4.4 seconds. And it also tells you that my website is faster than 39% of tested websites. So that is really poor. So over here on this breakdown, let me see if it shows. So we can see here the content by size, 83.4% is the images. So definitely these images need a lot of optimizing, and they used to show this breakdown in a waterfall. They call it waterfall, but now it's quite different. So there was an easier way to actually see which specific images they were. So let me see if it's this. Okay, no, that's not it. Okay. Right, anyway, you'll have to go in and take a look at this. But as you can see here, it's just giving you an idea of, you know, the content size by content type. So definitely 83.4% is the images. So this is something that needs to be fixed. In fact, let me zoom in if you can't see this clearly. Yeah, so right now you can see here on the image, it's 83.4%. So definitely this is what's slowing down my website and helping me giving this performance grade of D. So as I mentioned, this is what you need to keep an eye on as you are working on as you're designing your website. Okay, so we're going to round up our live stream. So for those of you that have tuned in today, I'd like to say thank you very much for tuning in. What I will do as well is I'll be broadcasting live on Saturday, where I'll be covering several topics and also some questions that I have on my channel. So keep an eye on Saturday. In fact, I'll be streaming at 1 p.m. UK time. So that seems to be the sweet spot. So that's the time I'll be aiming to do the live stream. But during the week as well, I'll also be doing some live stream. So make sure you click the bell notification so you get notified every time I go live. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in. And if you joined us quite late, this live stream will be live on my YouTube channel, and I'll also add it on my website so you can watch the restream. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it, and have a great week. Thank you.